Super Mario Brothers might be the most game in history. There's probably more videos about the plot of this game than any other. You may have personally watched multiple videos just about the first level. This topic has been beaten to death, which is why today we're going to talk about this game in a way you've never heard before. Not on this channel, not anywhere. And we're starting right now. The first thing I have to say about Super Mario Brothers is that this game is bad. Okay, wait, don't go anywhere. It's a good game. But the reasons why it's good, well, they run deep. So deep that there are things in this game which obviously bad, but actually good. Found, and you'll see what I mean. This is the unspoken for Mario Bros. Okay, first off, let's address the elephant in the room. I'm a speedrunner. I will naturally have a different relationship with this game and view certain aspects of it in a different light than most people. But as much as possible in this video, I'll be talking about the general audience. We'll go over the good things this game does to give the average player a good experience. So yeah, no focusing on like glitches or wall clips, for example. And I mean, there's no need. Those things are obviously bad.
Dealing with labyrinths.
Look how false.
Ah, what the heck? I don't know why, but my nipple suddenly started to hurt.
On the internet, criticizing an intent
Nipple. Oh. Oh, what the fuck?
anime. Okie dokie. Sure, the wall clips.
There is welcome labyrinth.
Literally. But what about the system that makes them possible? Why do you think you can clip into the wall like that in SMB1, but you can't do that in the Great Gianna system? Well, maybe it's just the superior game. Well, Lock Collision in SMB1 is clearly at a level of genius beyond even your comprehension. The collision detection in SMB1 is actually far more complex than the platforms at the time. Biggest contributors to the feel of the game. Take this example. You stand underneath this block and you jump. Mario is obviously going to hit his head against the block, right? But let's move over to the corner of the situation. You think Mario will he miss the block and jump all the way up? Let's see. From that spot, he should miss the block. It's really interesting, right? Mario kind of races against the block and lets us make the jump. You don't think about it, but they had to write some really specific logic to make this work. So take shows you Mario's tile collision. Collision for his head is only that one dot in the center, but then he also has those wide shoulders. So on a jump like this, his head actually misses the block, but then the shoulder in the block pushes him out. This is what makes these grazing jumps possible, but it's also a safety mechanism to push us out of the wall, like in 1-2. It's awesome. On the other hand, let's go back. I can't jump. It's so frustrating. Oh, dude. They got this right in 1985, and they keep getting this wrong today. Mario Odyssey has some 2D sections, and it's really easy to get hung up on blocks when you're trying to jump around them to get on top. They definitely did a great job in SMB1 to make this situation feel good for the player. Right. Part of game design is making sure your game understands the intentions of the player and providing them with the expected outcome. If the player feels like they made the right move, they get punished by some technicality, they're going to be upset. Nowadays, where you actually have a few extra frames to jump even after you make the ledge. Make up for a lack of clarity based on where the character's feet are positioned, you can compensate for any input delay on your TV. The thing is, leniency makes games feel good. They understood that even back in the 80s. Definitely some places where they took the leniency a little too far. Like, I can stomp on this enemy while practically up my head with that. I mean, the block collision is super sophisticated, but then the only requirement for stopping on an enemy is that you're moving downwards. I'd say that's a little oversimplified. Okay, now it's my turn to set the record straight. Bring up a good point. The enemy stopping mechanics are but let me show you something. Let's do a little exercise. We'll freeze Mario midair right here. And I want you and all the viewers at home to decide if Mario should stomp this enemy around. What do you think? You have your guess? Alright, the answer is... it depends.
This is Mario Maker. He dies. SMB1 survives. Now, I'm not saying the system in SMB1 is perfect, or without its fair share of jank, but what we have here works really well in this game specifically. You don't have the same level of aerial control here as you do in future games. And also, you can't bounce higher off of enemies in this game. That didn't come until SMB2. Those two things really made for some entirely new gameplay, and it does make sense to tighten up the stomping mechanics a bit at that point. They're pretty solid most of the time. You still do get moments like this, though. Speaking of SB3, it's possible to take damage sometimes, even if you do land on top of an enemy. This but it goes to show how easy it is to have bugs like this crop up in game development. It makes SMB1 all the more impressive. They got so much right on their first try. Plus, another little thing to stomp on enemies, it's actually not as simple as just checking if you're down. The game does actually check if you land on top of an enemy. Why does it do this if you can stomp them lower anyway? Well, you can stomp enemies while moving upwards. It feels so natural. The devs limited a lot of must have run into situations where it didn't feel right to die to an enemy. Like maybe jumping into a paracupa like this, or glancing a bullet bill on the way. Even automatically stomp cheap cheeps if they jump directly up into you. It's really cool that they make sure to resolve these scenarios and make them feel right for the player in situations where the player deserves to succeed.
Hold on, that's actually really interesting. You're saying that in both cases, one you can stomp on an enemy simply by moving downwards, and one where it checks where your feet are. So yeah, the only explanation is that they wanted it that way. I seriously thought that was like my product of taking a shortcut. But the topic of leniency, when we take a look at these enemy hitboxes, why are they so ridiculously tiny? In fact, the topic of this piranha plant hitbox comes up all the time. I don't want to think it's a mistake, but it seems hard to come up with justification.
Once again, let's use an example to explain this one, but a counterexample this time. Everyone, and I mean everyone, who has played enough Mario Maker, has happened with it. This hitbox is not good. Just a quick debrief so no one gets left out. Hitboxes are how games decide if you should take damage. So like in SMB1, there's a box around Mario and a box around enemies. And if two boxes ever overlap, you die. Hitboxes don't always match the exact shape of the enemy. I mean, they're just that, a box, and most enemies aren't shaped exactly like squares. Actually, for a hitbox, when you're working with boxes, you have to be careful. If you don't give any leniency, it's really easy for corners to overlap. That's exactly what's going on with the spikes in Mario Maker 2. Mario's little toe grazes the corner of a spike, you die. That's just not ideal, not fun for the player. On that note, let's get back to SMB1 and talk about the enemy with the most hitbox in the game, piranha plants. These things have spawned literally thousands of YouTube comments on speedrun videos. You very notoriously can jump straight through a large portion of the piranha plants. Given the nature of these old games, it would be easy to conclude that this is some kind of mistake. Lots of games around this time period had all sorts of inaccurate hitboxes.
They have no
Is
extra
this
depth.
not just another one of those cases? Well, I'll propose 3 explanations. Number 1, they made a mistake and didn't catch it before the game released. This doesn't seem likely to me, but either way, they were okay with how the game was playing and didn't see a need to change it, so that in itself tells us something at least. Number 2, they did this to save space. Now, it's no secret that Super Mario Bros. Was made with a really tiny amount of memory to work with. If you take a look at this picture showing all of the enemies and their hitboxes, you'll notice something. There's a lot of overlap. Some enemies have special hitbox shapes, like Hammer Bros for example, but for the most part, they got away with using only 2 hitbox sizes. Koopas are the same size as Lakitu, Lakitu is the same size as Mushrooms, and so on. And then, there's this other group of enemies that all share the same hitbox size. Koopas, Cheep Cheeps, Bloopers, and even Piranha Plants. Maybe Piranha Plants ended up with this hitbox because they only had space to make a handful of different sizes. Not a bad theory, but if we go with this explanation, why didn't they just give them the hitbox from that first group of enemies? Seems like it would fit at least a little bit better. Might I suggest it's because, number 3, they playtested their game and decided to make it that way on purpose. Now, I won't claim to know the exact reason they wanted it that way. It could be they wanted it to seem like Mario's falling down into the jaws before he dies, or maybe they were getting hit by them right as they were popping out, or when they hadn't quite gone down all the way, and they decided they wanted it to be more lenient. Leniency makes games feel good, after all. Think about it. Have you ever walked away from a play session of a game and said, this game's decent, but it could really use some bigger hitboxes? Most likely not. Instead, we've probably had moments with super close calls and said things like, whoa, how am I still alive? You've probably also gotten really excited when you barely made it out of a tight situation. That's the kind of experience you want. You don't want this. They did end up making the planet boxes bigger in Super Mario All-Stars. Situation. Actually, that's a hitbox still not covering the entire planet. Here's something else I noticed while staring at all these hitboxes. The enemies are regular ones that the player has to aim for and make sure they touch. Most enemies generally have pretty accurate hitboxes. Not perfect matches, but good enough for you to stomp on them. But here's the interesting part. The enemies you want to avoid, you don't want to touch at all, those ones seem to generally have smaller hitboxes. You can go through blooper tentacles, you can jump through piranha plants, and this fireball, man, what is this? I used to think this was a mistake, but now I'm not so sure. What do you think? Anyway, that's my synopsis of how this hitbox, which might seem poorly made, is actually game design. I'm not saying it has to be this extreme all the time, but for the record, SW1 is not perfect. Bowser's hitbox
I knew it, yeah. The Egyptian god relinquished. This is a Yugi boomer. They're playing Egyptian gods. Or just plain old dark magician.
Weird aspects of the physics in this game. If you've watched enough of my videos, you'll know that you accelerate faster backwards than you do forwards. That's definitely weird. And in general, I'm sure a lot of people feel like the mid-air physics in this game.
Just plain old dark magician.
Let's talk about the physics. Here's my question. What would you consider to be number one most groundbreaking feature of this game?
Oh, I know. Did you say groundbreaking?
Jump in Mario in air. The simple decision to let Mario move around in midair changed platforms forever. I mean, look at all these other games with platforming elements, some of which come after this. Donkey Kong can't control your jump. Ghosts and Goblins can't control your jump. Ice Climber can't control your jump. Castlevania, Prince of Persia, basically the game design consensus at the time was that if your character had too much freedom of someone actually had to sit down and decide, hey, I can make a character that's really fun to move around, and I can still challenge the player. That man, Shigeru Miyamoto. But it turns out it's really difficult to make physics that are fun and feel good. You want to be able to start pretty quickly, but you don't want to blast right up to full speed. You want to be able to correct people and have too much freedom in the air, because then your decisions are wrong. One especially is that stop. Have you ever played an old platformer that just feels really slippery, like you try to jump up onto a small platform and you just slip off? That's actually a result of the physics being too stiff. You need different acceleration values for different situations. If the player wants to stop moving, you gotta quickly bring it to a stop. And SMB1 does this in a pretty elegant way. Basically, if you're moving in one direction, but you're facing the other direction, which is when you're skidding on the ground, then your acceleration is doubled, which makes you stop faster. There's just one tiny oversight. It can also make it happen by jumping backwards. You're facing left and moving right, so the acceleration is doubled. So even though Mario has less control in the air, jumping backwards for one frame turns out to be just a tiny bit faster than running up. A travesty. Sure. Okay, you got me. The code for the physics in this one was clearly way ahead of the stuff the
blue eyes. Or red eyes. Fair enough.
Right? Like, look at every 2D Mario game that came out. They all have floatier jumps and more mid-air control. It's more subjective than you think. And if to be one physics has to be free, it would feel awful. But that's obvious because the game was designed for a different physics system.
Pretty sure they're gonna make me go first. But I don't know. Are they smart enough to know that this is a hard-going second deck?
Jumping was brand new, so the challenge was the jumping itself. By the time we get to SMP 3, Mario can literally fly. Now there's a vertical the challenge, and you can even explore the level to find different paths and areas. Jumps are floatier because the game is more aerial, more vertical. In 1985, jump to either land on a platform or stomp on an enemy. But now, it's 1989, the world knows how to do it. So jumping is treated as more of a and SMP1 was purpose-built for a system. It can feel stiff and hard to control because you're conditioned by a different system, a different set of challenges. But it turns out that people still have fun playing games that are focused on planning
Alright.
jumps. So it's not like other systems have obsolete. It's just more trendy nowadays to maximize freedom of. I say we bring back controls.
I'm down. Plus, that was really only talking about horizontal movement. SMP1 also did an incredible job critically. If they stuck with the way things were in Donkey Kong, with only one jump height, the game would have ended up looking like this. But instead, you can do big jumps, small jumps, release your jump halfway through if you change your mind. Great. This game has 32 different jump heights. Part of this development happened between Donkey Kong and SMP1. Mario Brothers arcade game. Not Super Mario Brothers, just Mario Brothers. For that game, they had the revolutionary idea to remove fall damage. That's right, it was revolutionary at the time. Miyamoto originally tried to make things pretty realistic in Donkey Kong, and you die from, honestly, not that far of a fall. Then, the legend Gunpei Yokoi suggested that they should let Mario jump down from higher places. That really opened the door, and led to what we have in Super Mario Bros. And beyond. So, to summarize everything so far, SMP1 broke a lot of ground, giving the player jumping and designing how Mario interacts with the world.
I
Even now,
win.
the game generally feels good and is enjoyable to play. Given the limitations of the hardware, they did a ridiculously good job. However, there are some areas where the limiting factors did show themselves. I want to bring up some of those. Sure, they did their best given their circumstances at the time, but for example, isn't it funny that you can't scroll to the left in this game? Surely the player wants to go left sometimes. Could you explain that one for us, Dan?
Oh, that's actually good game design too.
What?
Nah, I'm just kidding. They didn't do it for design reasons. But there is a good reason for it. What they did was really impressive. It all comes down to the size of the game cartridge. And this has been talked about before. It comes up a lot in videos about the NES, how the original games were only up to 40 kilobytes in size, and later they used memory mappers to fit more stuff into the cartridge. But that's not the whole picture here. So SMP1 has 32 levels. Let's estimate that each level takes up, I don't know, a kilobyte? Let's say half a kilobyte, because they're probably pulling off some techniques to store this data really efficiently. So in total, that's like 16 kilobytes. Maybe consider that a few levels have the same layout as each other. That's a pretty good educated guess. You know how much space the level data actually takes up? Less than 4 kilobytes. Yeah, the tile data for all 32 levels, including the warp pipe rooms, the coin heaven, crazy layouts in the castle levels, it only takes up a little more than 8% of the cartridge space. Even the music data is like
game.
1.3 kilobytes. My point is, the game is so complex that they hardly had any room to store the actual game assets. I bet you didn't think so much of those 40 kilobytes were taken up by code, did you? Yeah, code takes up space too, and there's a lot of it to handle all that complex game logic. So anyway, how did they manage to store so much level data in such a small space? The secret is that they're not storing data for every single block. SMP1 tiles fall into two categories, terrain and objects. Different terrain patterns have different IDs. The terrain in 1-1 is pattern
Oh,
number
right,
1.
I don't need
In
these.
1-2, this terrain pattern, which includes the ceiling, is pattern 2. In total, there are 16 patterns, all with different heights for the floor and ceiling. Patterns which have so all these blocks aren't even stored in the level data. The level just specifies a terrain pattern at the start, and each new column on the screen starts off by drawing that terrain before adding the other objects. The thing is, one of the
Top deck
objects
red ice again.
is actually a command to change the terrain. So you can get some really dynamic level rankings. It only takes up lengths to the block. So that's how the terrain works, but it gets more interesting. Most of the blocks in the game aren't stored as individual blocks, but as larger objects. For example, this row of bricks is one object, which just need the row, the column, and the length. Same with these mushroom platforms. They're just one object where you can change the height and the length. Kind of like in Mario Maker, funnily enough. So you have all kinds of objects for rows of question blocks, columns of bricks, pipes, Bowser's bridge, the little castle structure at the end of the level. Even the staircase is an object. And you know how much space an object takes up? So yeah, you're getting a lot of mileage out of those 2 bytes. And that's why you use it backwards in SMP1. The game moves forward one column at a time, only caring about what objects are coming up next. If you could go backwards, how would the game ever start drawing this row of blocks from the end when the starting position is all the way back here? It's not impossible, but it would make the level rendering system way more complicated. It would take up more cartridge space, use up more memory, give the CPU more work to do. So, yes, it's a compromise that you can't go left, but it's a beautiful one that gives us
sucks.
32 sprawling levels on a tiny cartridge. Speaking of compromises, I was watching some runs done by and I noticed that there were issues with the sprites despawning. Like, there should be 3 enemies, not 2. It's not like this game ever has all that much happening on the screen, so it's weird that even in normal gameplay you can run into this issue.
Yeah, sprites. This will be a perfect topic to cap things off. And that's because this is yet another area where they did a really beautiful job with it. See, sprites despawning is an issue.
Unless they can OTK me right here.
It's something that happens constantly, but also very rarely. It has a huge effect on gameplay, and yet no effect.
Not GG yet.
Let me explain what I mean. The game
Or is
has
it?
several
I don't
available
actually
slots
know.
of memory, but sprites in. I won't go too deep into it because
Yeah, it
this
is.
previous video of mine covered a lot of it. But basically, well, these are all full, more sprites can spawn. This can most easily be seen with piranha plants. From 1-2 onwards, anytime there's no piranha plant in it, that means the piranha plant despawn. So yeah, this is something that happens a lot. But the thing is, it's not a big deal if a piranha plant despawns
I'll do one
here
more.
or a Goomba despawns there. You'll hardly notice, and it barely affects the game. But if, say, Bowser despawned, that would be a lot more noticeable. You've probably never even thought about this before, but there's usually not a lot of enemies in castle stages, and never right by Bowser. Sometimes fire bar, maybe a platform, but for Bowser to despawn, you'd have to have 5 sprites already loading. Doing that is possible in 4-4 by waiting around plus the fire bar, plus the voting. But even then, it's pretty tight. Picture the second window where all 3 fireballs are on screen and you won't spawn in. So yeah, very unlikely for this to happen to on accident. Alright, is there anything else in the game that would be terrible if it despawned? If I had to pick, I'd say moving platforms despawning
My
would
hand!
be the worst thing possible. Finally, there is a spot in this game where we run into this issue. This spot in 5-3 have a platform despawn. But I do think it's not quite as bad as it seems. 5-3 is a remake of 1-3. Originally, they only put 4 sprites in this area, ensuring that the platforms would spawn. But later in the game, there's a handful of levels that play a second time, with added difficulty. 5-3 is one of these, a harder version of 1-3, bullet bills firing all the time. This introduces some extra sprites into the mix, and that can lead to this platform despawning. But really, this issue only comes up
Hopefully they don't have a Harpy's feather duster thingy.
Stomp the enemies, let the Goomba fall down, anything, then the platform will spawn. And even if it doesn't, you can still make the jump by waiting for the platform. And not really an issue unless you're doing a speedrun. And in speedruns, we just stomp this Goomba to dodge the despawn every time. Anyway, that's really the main place in the game where something like this could happen to you. The point I want to make is that this is something that could happen all the time, but rarely ever does, and that's no accident. If you analyze each level, you'll see that they were always designing around this. Crucial areas to be free of enemies to ensure the importance. Make sure to give enough lead up for other sprites to go off screen, or vulnerable areas. They put up walls and pits to prevent enemies from following you to places that would lead to fatal despawns. Even the staircase at the end of levels acts as a natural barrier to keep enemies away. Most
Sure,
of the
I
time.
can't read what that does.
To wrap this all up, they did an amazing job within the limitations of this game. They had to design the levels using very little memory, like Dan was saying, and they carefully place sprites in them in a way where despawning would ruin your experience. As the player, don't notice compromises. You don't think about them while playing because the game is designed very well around them and is still fun.
That's the general theme we have going on here. SMB1 is just full of this meticulous deliberate, and you don't even realize it's there until it gives itself a reason to be noticed. We don't have time to cover every little thing, but I think I've come across Super Mario Bros. Good game. I think we can leave it off here. So, see you all next time, and don't forget to like and subscribe.
Whoa, whoa, whoa. Are you trying to end my video? Dan, please. We're just getting started. Sure, they did great with all that stuff, but what about crab swimming, the color palette glitch, scale platform inheritance,
Okay, so that,
Koopa stuck crab jumps, low gravity,
I'm sure we can come up with.
invisible block clips, horizontal screen wraps, vertical screen wraps, and soft blocking on the flagpole,
Nah.
to name a few.
This game sucks. Let's go play Great Gianna Sisters.
You made it this far? Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed.
Realistically,
Learning
not
about
much
the
I can
science
do.
behind these games. There's always more little details to learn. If you enjoy learning about these things through my videos, you may be interested. Brilliant. Platform where new skills in
Going
math,
second without
programming, data
literally any
analysis,
game
and
plan.
lets you do interactive.
But I really should
tests
have a
with applications
kaiju at the very least.
Take programming, for example. You could be brand new and not sure where to start. Or you could be weird like me, start making YouTube videos full time, right after getting your computer science degree. Either way,
That kind of
Brilliant
shit's
has something for
important.
you. I've been looking for ways to keep my coding skills sharp while I've been busy playing Mario, and Brilliant allows for that. Yeah, again, there's a bunch of courses in math,
More going
AI,
second
data,
cards.
interested in trying it out, go to brilliant.org/cosmic, or scan the QR code on screen. You'll get to try everything free for 30 days, and you can get 20% off of an annual premium subscription.
Wait, I don't know why I did that. I know where this combo's going. I thought the battle pass. Ah, it has reset. Wait, what? I can also go sphere mode. That could be funny. It does require 3 tributes, and then there's Lava Golem, which requires 2 instead. Does it count? Do kaijus count as a hand effect? Because if they do, then that's probably less incentive to try running kaijus. So I try running more kaijus. Let's try running 6. uh, this one's honestly the least important. Maybe just 5. I'll try it out real quick. Then I'm gonna do my dailies. Oh, second. Bullshit. What is this bullshit? Absolute hogwash, dog water garbage. Nice. Oh my god, it's fucking Blue Eyes. Or is it Exodia? Wouldn't it be funny if the AI had Exodia?
Jarvis! You are probably the #1 fan when it comes to poking around in the comments section. Alright, what I thought it would be a treat to have stars yourself. How you doing, buddy?
I this before. Should I play a few games in Master Rule? Should I go look hard myself? No. For the content, it looks like a all in the name of all the name of the game.
Well, we're all here to look like because that's the way the series has come so far. You don't have to really one episode is how these typically go. But
yes,
I thought that was fun one.
God.
I thought it was. So before I'm excited, why don't you go and introduce yourself? Right? Isn't familiar with you? Which would be a surprise. But also, you can tell us about your Yu-Gi-Oh background as well.
Yeah, I was gonna say I would not be surprised because this is kind of like a little cross genre thing. But my name's Jarvis. I do like
Isn't this Blue Eyes White Dragon the one that's just 15 Blue Eyes Ultimate Dragon and 40 Blue Eyes White Dragon?
Oh, you're in the right place for that.
Exactly. So it's really cool.
Okay, now this is an actual deck.
Next door.
Excuse me.
And I would be obviously a big fan of the anime. Let's see.
How come whenever I'm not the one playing Blue Eyes, they get to combo like hell, but when I do it, all I get are bricks?
Not even. So, I became familiar with your content, Simo, because the progression series was a great way for me to fill in the blanks on like what I missed. Sure. Years ago, in 20, back, to play a world after it's going to be my hyper focus. I had played a bunch of Hearthstone back in 2014, 2015, before I was doing content. That started taking up all my time. Now I'm really into Magic. So the one thing I collect Yu-Gi-Oh! I watch a lot of these videos. I like to think about the good times I used to have back in the day, and maybe the not so good times I had watching my opponent combo up in basketball. But I don't have high expectations for myself here.
That's awesome. I think one set of cards and actually I have two sets of cards. Before we get into what I am challenging today, what was between Yugi and Kaiba? Were you a Yugi guy or a Kaiba guy? That's gonna dictate this video.
Interesting. I think that I was more of a Kaiba. Because one blue eyes. Like, just like even back then, I was like, blue eyes is just objectively better.
True.
like, cause I played with my friends with starter decks against each other. Like I remember the cards list those starter decks, and it was just like, well, this doesn't seem fair. Your card, you're awesome. You know. Less of a hard. It's all my cards, best cards, trying to defeat my, that kind of. And I decided famous famous Yami. But actually, it wasn't. My grandfather's deck has better cards, Kaiba. And it does.
Showing you iconic cards that Seto Kaiba played from the anime, and your goal is twofold here. You're going to be very familiar with this one. You're going to evaluate it and tell me if you think the card is good or not, first off, and then second of all,
that actually worked.
Is to tell me whether or not at any point Seto Kaiba cards serve time on the bands, the TCG bands specifically. I think this is fun because Kaiba has, most Yugi Kaiba, I made a list for both in case it's free.
Right.
I think they actually have a lot of interesting cards with them familiar with, but you may actually be surprised to know whether or not these cards, A, were actually playable in like a playable sense, but B, also, if they were too good, they didn't actually get banned, and you can see that. And so let's go ahead and start off with the first card here. We're going to kick it off real nice and simple.
Okay, let me jump in. Alright. Late Night.
Love this guy. Sick art.
It's a 4-star light monster. It's a warrior. And while you have one or less cards in your hand, this card needs 400 attack. If you control no other monsters, this card are negated. Okay, so early Yu-Gi-Oh! You're fighting a lot more on them. You've got your forgetting all of the like a
Maneater bug.
Or Maneater bug, yeah. So the thing is, card advantage is important in all card games. So you're want to play everything out.
Nice.
All for 1,000 attack. Okay, so you could be playing some aggro strats. Maybe this is like. But the thing is, this is your summoning this. I feel like in this era. So I'm deciding if this was ever banned, or if I'm also saying if it was good or.
Oh, so you can start if you think it's good or not, and then obviously that might lead you.
Yeah, I think this is maybe fine. Okay, I definitely don't think something like this would be banned. Because I think that it doesn't even scale with the power of the game. I think like obviously in modern Yu-Gi-Oh! This is like a very bad card. So sure, it doesn't think too much on Yu-Gi-Oh! But even back then, am I allowed to ask for this?
This deck, this deck doesn't have answer. I know that.
I think this was the second wave
So there's like 2,000. Yeah, so
I was under the impression this deck wanted to go second.
That's one of those team promos. That was no, you can see.
Oh yeah,
this is one of those. Yep.
I have the first generation of those pins, and I could do something like I think in that world, like there's IL 1900 4 stars.
Wow.
This guy is like original 2000.
Okay.
So I think that sure
Eat this.
and I'm sure there's also like a few conditional 2000s I know in players. Like a few.
Now you are mine.
So say, yeah, this card is fine to bad, and it's never been.
I like it.
Yeah, that's my final.
Alright, so Blade Knight's a really cool card. This might be one of my top favorites in all of you. You know, I just love like how the sword is just like card art.
Yeah, it's like it reminds me of the action shot of like not Buster Blader, but Barrel Dragon.
Oh right. Buster Blader's not too bad either. I think like I get you. So Blade Knight is actually a phenomenal. And
oh really?
Yeah. There's a couple things and some context. So first of all, its stats being 1600 by default okay. Getting into 2K in the instance where you have one or less cards in hand is fine, but it's not like what's necessary. It's more so the fact that if it's the only other monster you have, it's negating the flip effects, right? Not the
wait, let me stop you there. So I'm like, okay, so this is negating jars, this is negating
Magician of Fate.
Magician of Fate.
Yep.
But I guess I'm just thinking, you know, at 1600, it's hitting over everything in defense mode that's not like a 2000. Like there's not that many like 7 balls that are like things like that. Things are when it comes to defense, especially things with effects. So if someone's face down, you can probably confidently attack into this.
Exactly. Also, considering it's a light rear, its typing is really strong. Surgeon reinforcement, the RB, so it's very true. Yep, Rhoda. The 1000 defense, Black Forest, very old. You can search this that way if you need to. And being a light chaos, also quite important.
Yeah. The chaos stuff was after my time in terms of Yu-Gi-Oh!
Yep.
And I should have clocked that because obviously there's all the
Exactly. Now there's a bit of context though, because after back in the day, people would play Blade Knight, but it wasn't something that everyone decided to play. If you're playing like a warrior set, just like what I played back in the day, you would just have a Blade Knight because it's a good. But as people start to revisit Go format here, Go format, the second best deck in that format is the Warrior deck, and the Warrior deck
I know this deck has fusions.
Blade Knight as its main attacker and plays a metric just shit ton of trap cards. So ideally, your best play is to play Blade Knight 7 so suit that. Now, all the best format are most that the Chaos deck likes to play. So if you're going play, you're going to be in for a war because this is in retrospect, not in retrospect, but as you start to refine Go format, people and how Blade Knight is. It's just a phenomenal card.
Like Go format now, like so many of us were all
Yeah.
It's really too.
Wait, why didn't try and guess kill?
Like something like old school escape where children, and then now it's a bunch of 30-year-olds playing it, and they've hyper optimized everything. So it's just like, I mean, so it's great. Like, okay, not necessarily.
Synchros then. There you know, fuck it. I'm gonna take this online. Let me just make one last thing. I do need more monsters. Let's go bring out lava. Let's go put in lava golem on the side when we know we can use it.
As long as you have 3 creatures, but even still, you have 1 more card and it bumps up to 2000. So I can totally see the trap synergies make a lot of sense. It's just like that. It's like your back row is like a second hand, except for now it's active. So you can like dump you don't sacrifice your card.
Exactly. Exactly, and mainly just like being able to take out stuff with flip effects because the Chaos deck is considered like the best deck, and like the Warrior deck is almost the anti-meta strategy for Chaos deck. And so being able to just make sure that none of those Magician of Fates was all just any, the Night Assailants, like any flip effect, if it's turned off, then the Warrior play is going to be strong. So,
Magician of Fate, just as a reminder, he brings back a spell card, right?
Spell card.
But, yeah.
Next card. Let's give you a spell card. This one's just weird.
Ooh, okay, and controller. This one is familiar. Activate one. Face up onto your opponent controller battle position.
Book of Moon, but
And face down against. Okay, so
close enough.
and then tribute one. Tribute one monster or take one face up onto your opponent. Take control of that target until the end phase.
Fantastic hand, I'd say.
Like, there's a lot of like red cards in Magic that are like steal somebody's card, untap it for one turn, and attack it, and it works in really aggro strategies. But in Yu-Gi-Oh, some of the powers are so big, so strong that like.
Oh my god, it's Dogmatica.
The spell, you can go thing in undesirable position, so it effectively is like removable in that way as well. Only activate one of the effects, but if you had two of these, you could you could steal their guy. That's okay. Yeah, this seems like a really good card. And was it banned?
Kashtira is only at 1 in TCG, right? Oh my god, that's not the Kashtira
What's funny about these?
I was thinking about though.
But like, I never played in the era they were, and so
this would have been printed when you were playing. It's a little bit past because it's around like Chaos era, so it's a little bit after.
yeah,
But it's not easy.
This reveals no information, so I'll discard those.
Like that, after I was already playing Magic the Gathering, which I thought was like Yu-Gi-Oh's for children. 30
And now you get to play with the 40-year-old.
Exactly. Yeah. And recently I went to a card shop and I was visiting the card shop is popular with programs. So I played in a pre-release a two-headed giant group. So it was like 2 versus 2 with like 8 worlds together. Exclusively playing against children. Very adorable. Okay. The card's good, was never banned. I'm trying to think of the interactions. Okay, so chaos. So there's really strong eyes on this one. That you're steal. I'll say it. Yeah, I'll say it was banned.
I don't think so.
Sure.
Enemy Controller is a really cool card. I think why people love this card so much is just because of the flexibility, like you mentioned. Even at the very worst, being able to turn stuff sideways and attack, or you can turn your opponent stuff into attack positions, so that way you can like ram it, so you can actually like if it has a higher defense or you can damage it. But then being able to at will, you can tribute something off and take something, maybe get rid of a low static guy and do their best thing. It's a really awesome card. It's weird because like in old Yu-Gi-Oh, this card didn't see a ton of play, but it's always been a card that people have gone back to and have found ways to incorporate into their deck. So as the game aged, people found more and more uses for this. This might shock you. Yeah, exactly. This might shock you. Enemy Controller has actually seen like that's how good.
That's cool.
Yeah,
I love that.
I do too. I do too. I think it's awesome to see these like old cards out of nowhere, especially when they're iconic ones like this that are actually just good enough to see play. And it was never banned. But I think understandably, it's an incredible help. I don't think it's ever like it's too crazy. It is big.
Yeah, it does feel like somewhat fair.
Yeah.
You know, like I only have the
Isn't Yu-Gi-Oh fucking insane and stupid? In literally every other card game, things start off. You start off by not being able to do a lot, and then things slowly ramp up until every turn both players are doing a shit ton of shit per turn. But in Yu-Gi-Oh, it's actually pretty much the opposite. You do everything on the first turn, and then due to the fact that you're most likely out of resources after your first turn, since you've committed all of them. If a game goes on for long enough, there isn't a lot that happens past turn 2 or 3 even, sometimes.
One quick question about these spells is
They might have Elder Entity, except Elder Entity doesn't really do much
okay. What's the condition?
It's basically at any point
against the time.
you can do that. You can't do it on the opponent's turn. You have to have it set.
Alright, it returned to my hand.
Yeah, that's what it is. That's what it is.
Yeah, but any controller allows people to do a lot of fun stuff by like just dodging certain effects or being able to take your opponent's things. Like being able to have that quick play flexibility. It just focuses on a quick play. Exactly. And it was very good for that reason. Alright, I showed you monster, I showed you spell, let's show you trap.
Oh, construction. Yeah, this is a kind of card. Target one face trap card. Target one face-up monster on the field. Destroy that target.
That sucks.
If you do inflict damage to both players, that target's attack. Okay, so my immediate thought is like really. This says target one face-up monster on the field, not doesn't say opponents or anything like that. So like attacking something huge, and then flip this, and then like essentially double your damage output. So it seems very bursty in terms of like an aggro type strat. It doesn't put damage to both players, but if you're like a natural, you're the aggro, like you're in a race, you can damage faster. And then on the flip side, you can use it defensively to strategy where you want to get your opponent down. Obviously, you can use your life as a resource here, so it just seems valuable in general. So like the utility of the one attack, and it's when you're behind, when you're ahead. So good card, generally. Whether or not it's banned, I feel like could be situational, could be depending on. So when I was playing, if I was, and I wasn't even playing like, I would go to my local. Most of the people would be like, I live in college town growing up, so like university students, and so I was like locked into like the perfect meta strats. I did play a lot of Beatdown. I played a lot of United We Stand and Mage Power.
Hell yeah.
Like and so I'm like, if I or something and it's on them, and then I'm just like attacking in from double attacking, and then I'm like popping my own guy and hitting somebody, or I'm on the attack. It's my turn. I've set my trap card for one turn previously. So if I'm facing
It's my turn to get kaiju'd.
I can flip it up, destroy their guy, and attack it a big guy. So I'm going to say that it was banned, and the reason I don't do this, but I can.
Alright. I haven't seen any XCs. Maybe they don't have any XCs. I've seen a single synchro.
That existed in this era, but if Cyberstein, who has Ultimate Dragon, 44,000? 45. Okay, so that's 4,500, so attacking that guy, destruction, you've got like an OTK. So I'm gonna go ahead and say.
Now come on, don't rage quit.
Interesting, you thought rank and of that.
Let's see if they're still gonna want to go first. I'm hard calling they're gonna want to go first still.
That isn't the reason rank is banned.
Yeah, I just realized the combo I just described, so you have to sack half your life, so you kill yourself doing that.
Yeah.
But anyway, you get the idea. I'm trying to put the pieces together.
No, the play pattern is still there, though. One of the most degenerate, in quotes, things people do in Ring of Destruction is that if you have a moderately static card, like, you can take play pattern, right? Like, if you attack in and your opponent has all of a sudden less than 1,600 attack, you Ring of Destruction to play night, you win the game immediately. So, like you said, doubling the damage output, that's what Ring of Destruction was really potent. But being able to pop your opponent's monster as well, just for a good one-for-one roll, Keep in mind, this card wasn't released too long after. You said Labyrinth of Nightmare. This card was Chronic Guardian. So
Last
it's
fight.
sets later.
For real.
I remember seeing the patch, but Chronic Guardian is like both one set. I like remember not like that set at all.
Yeah, so Ring of Destruction wasn't like a ton of one yeah, sure. But Ring of Destruction being this very flexible.
Hello, Silver Forest Enjoyer.
Sir, you have to wait for like tribute.
Set rotation. What the hell is this?
Yeah.
Right. For Ring of Destruction,
What the hell?
The reason this card actually ended up getting banned, aside from the fact being like this flexible is really good. Yu-Gi-Oh! The main reason though is actually because it forced draws in a tournament level. Because if you bring a monster and points less than that monster, then you're gonna force a draw. And from like a tournament perspective, draws just really suck.
Yeah. Yeah, because I mean, all your like Swiss seeding.
Yep.
I can totally imagine that. That's so funny though, because it's large symmetrical burn of both players. that of course is gonna all you have to do is some reasonably right. Like when you could be also losing the game on the losing the game in card advantage.
That's 3 monsters.
It's your way out.
It's your way out. It's your way out.
Oh, Secret Village.
You for sure can.
Yep. So they banned it. They eventually brought it back. They errated it. They put way more text on it, and essentially, you can only opponent's monster.
Fucking
The
bollocks.
monster has to have like lesser attack than their life points. And then like they changed the way the works, so it's still symmetrically.
They don't actually have any spellcasters.
The opponent. So. That's how I feel.
Yeah, they do retrains like D-trains and shit all the time. Why wouldn't they just like dramatically different card?
Yeah.
I mean, I get it. It's so specifically like a band-aid over the problem.
Yeah.
When you're like, oh, you can't do specifically the thing you guys were doing, but now we codified it into
exactly. It's wild. But you're on the board. You got a point.
cool. We got one.
All right. Next up, let's go back to monsters.
I've seen this guy, but I couldn't tell you what he does, which is fine. I think that's good for this because I don't want to know. Twin-headed behemoth, 3-star. During your hit, this card is in the graveyard because it was destroyed on the field. Sit there this turn. You can special summon this card. You only use the effect. And that. How is that enforced? Because you have multiple copies of it. So that means once per instance of the card. What changes the instance would be a question, but then where's it?
It's once per any copies. Yes, ever.
So
if you were to
basically,
play
I run 3. Yeah, then I can only use this one.
correct.
Okay, so how is during the hit phase? Obviously, if you this one's renewal, you busted somehow. During the end phase, this card is in the graveyard, destroyed on the center of the
This card doesn't work on older rules, on older master rules.
probably as a result of some combo. You can special summon. Essentially, provides like.
Let's see what'll happen from here.
I don't know what you would feed this into, what sort of function you would feed this into, but I can use this for my normal summon. But not at the same time. Actually, I don't know how to time it. Because, like, for example, if I. This is a very dumb example, but it'll help. I'm chatting, so.
Okay.
And, so. Oh, this turn is okay.
Yeah.
So.
Plus, it have to be destroyed, so it doesn't work.
Okay, right, because
That's exactly. Yeah, same thing. Now, for a bit of context, this card was released in Legacy of Darkness, which was the set right after.
Right after. That's why I know it. Yeah. But I have no clue how this was. What can this have been?
Feels like everyone is just playing
I
old support nostalgia cards in Dueling Nexus.
I don't know the specific context,
They surrendered.
but I would say that like feels like it would be this card's fault for any bannings.
Okay.
Like it just seems like value. Unless maybe is this relevant? I attack it.
Yeah, nothing
I-
worth going
it
with
comes
this.
back. I attack it, I deal 50 in a structure, I deal another 50. It comes back. I activate another. I'm like trying to think of like how I could use this. But yeah, I'll say good but not bad.
I know
They're thinking real hard on their
I'm
side
not
deck.
even gonna beat around the bush. You're right on the money with this one. Good, but not.
They're gonna make me go first.
It's just like you
Nope,
said,
as usual.
funny enough, this is, I believe, the first effect.
Total and utter fool.
People kind of question why this is a once per effect with the set here. It's not like it was particular. But
I was like, once per nice.
yeah, I mean, it is there. There wasn't really anything else that had this sort of like unique resurrection style. Style for Yu-Gi-Oh! Standards, resurrection effects were more rare because there's only a couple cards that did this sort of thing.
Yeah.
Premature burial, call the haunted, like that's kind of it.
Makes sense that you would be conservative because like putting this once per duel out here allows you to allows you to examine pattern in the file.
Yeah.
And if it were uncapped, could have unleashed,
And that's the biggest flaw of this deck, isn't it?
So
You're forced to run 5 garnets, and because you have no way of searching them out and drawing cards, this doesn't seem like...
It's the only place I'll ever be able to say this. There was this guy who had leggings all the time, played Gravity Bind Control with like Dream Clown and some other thing.
Crass Clown.
A Crass Clown. Yeah, and oh my god, what a pain in the neck that was. Ran over.
Yeah, you're good. So, twin-headed also, typically how this card would that it's like an okay statted monster to do combat with things or just get in a bit of chip damage. And then if your opponent kills it off, cool, it comes back. There wasn't really many to destroy in old Yu-Gi-Oh! And then it comes back to 1,000. That's like pretty mediocre stats, but that will you distribute it off with like a better monster. And that was like, by old Yu-Gi-Oh! Standards, that's pretty damn good. This one actually did get limited. It wasn't banned, but it's only one copy, so that's sort of expert.
That makes sense. So yeah, because in Yu-Gi-Oh! You're attacking, you choose attackers. Correct. You're gonna choose the targets for attacks. So knowingly and correct.
Another one.
So you attack it. So essentially spell that it immediately comes.
Yeah, and if your opponent doesn't have a monster, that's it. If they have to waste a full-on twin-headed behemoth, that just feels bad. Oh, I wasted this ring of destruction, let's say, and now it's just going to come back. Down the card. So
this is like those cards in Magic or Hearthstone that like create a little guy when they die.
Pretty much. That's exactly what it is. Yeah, and so like it wasn't particularly great. No one would really say this was like the best card. Like it's a card.
Yeah, I like that. A good pawn.
I think people would laugh that this was limited. So
yeah, especially because it's once per. So it's like you're the consistency of this small value.
Yeah, but again, like when revival effects are pretty rare, like I can kind of understand that maybe they want to, maybe just put it in on it. So, yeah. Next card.
Oh, okay. This one I can't say that I recognize. Okay, Shrink. Target one face up monster on the field. Or attack that monster is halved until the face is just. This allows you to in a combat. In turn, it just goes one, but conditional 1-for-1. So I'm like.
It's taking them so long to think.
Like, I think that on its face, like
I'm pretty sure they actually win here.
I struggle to see I feel like having to get just the one value here doesn't feel good. Okay. Also saves you on defense a little bit. So like if they attack, you have to set. It's a combat trick essentially. How could this possibly be? Turn one is a monster. Target. And it just has a written that's applied by anything. And, not that that's like relevant, but it just adds the card.
Oh, funny aside, I also think they modified Cricket Destruction that it also says original attack. The original text. So if you bump like some big thing up, then you can win.
That's what I want. That's what I want to do. They're like, you don't get to have. I'll say discard. I actually will take a strong. Bad in every hand because I'm so curious how it can be broken, and I would love to learn.
Alright, Violence.
Yeah, that's what I like.
So Shrink is really cool. So this was a card that they showed in the anime because, not because it's just assumed it showed it, but it didn't get printed. It didn't get printed until later is because, like, blow your mind. This was actually a prize card. And it held YCS SJCs from the base. And the prize card for one of the series, or one of the years rather, of the series, was Shrink. So Shrink was actually a prize card.
SJC Shonen Jump Champion.
That's correct.
1 second. I'll show you something. Here's my childhood copy of the first issue. And I like a food line in the magazine aisle. This one's from it was Dragon. See here.
Pretty sure I lose here.
That's so awesome. The memory.
So,
the memory.
as an adult, it's one man buy a sealed copy and still buys it.
Yeah.
You can capture my childhood joy. Shout out.
Yeah, so it was a prize card 2006 SJC series, and they rotated the prize card out every year. And eventually they printed it in another set so it was more widely available. And similar to what your initial impressions are, a lot of people were like, this is like whatever. And it turns out that Shrink actually ended up being a
Just
particularly
big
good card,
numbers.
especially once it was more widely available.
Definitely not meta, but
I wouldn't say it was like
yeah, DZ is right. This is pretty good. This is pretty good. Those are some pretty good support cards.
It wasn't Mechanical Chaser.
No, it was not that first.
Oh, that was just round 2.
No, that was Shrink Protect. That was
It was like, was it TP1 then?
TP1. Yeah, it was the first one. Yeah, the stats mattered.
1850, yeah.
50. Yep. No Gemini out yet.
Yeah, sorry, Lashin.
And so, Shrink, people started finding one really cool application for this card.
Try putting in Lava Golem.
Like the trap hole cards, for instance, like trap holes, bottomless
Yeah,
trap.
bottom.
Yeah. Like, okay, I go summon big guy. I go actually
That sucks.
Shrink it,
Pot
the guy's
duality
surprised,
won't let
and,
me
yeah, you couldn't waste your card that, but depending on if that guy really needed to stick,
go into Kaiju, but like I can go into Lava
combat
Golem.
is also really applicable as well, just because of being able to use it like in the damage step. In that your opponent
My draw phase is pretty much gonna determine if I win or lose here.
Thanks. So we can this like very unique form of full and some decks, like gadget decks, gladiator beast decks. These are decks you can see later on.
That's where you need some cards to stay alive. These are like pieces for something.
Yeah, it's more so that gladiator beast specifically is very deck, and so Shrike and Shrike are always going to win combat, and then they would have this effect that during the end of the battle phase.
And Exod is pretty hard to bring out turn 1 though.
And one of the first archetypes I did like 2.
There's a lot of setup, and then they don't actually end with Exod on the field immediately. And that is a problem.
Yeah, pretty much. It just made it so that if you played something that was
Give your opponent an inch in Yu-Gi-Oh! And they'll take a mile. They'll take a light year.
Toe-to-toe with the higher attack static decks.
Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah, and so it wasn't like ever like the most broken thing ever. It wasn't banned, so you're right on the money.
Yeah.
But just like a neat card that some people
Little Knight.
And so it did see plenty of life.
Enough about how Yu-Gi-Oh's damage step works, but like combat tricks are very common in Magic, and there's a mechanic.
That is a very good option.
Just came out that if it's sculpture
Man of the end board or whatever.
you either survive combat or you have some other way of tapping it, then you get some effect. Some of those effects can we get about and like a pretty strong thing. Yeah. So like rising combat, how like what is the power? Like obviously rather use
Alright, so Lava Golem is my only out.
risk combat, but combat tricks that keep something alive through combat so that effect can go up or maybe higher value in those specific synergies. So it's sort of similar to this, but I guess it's a less common thing in Go. But I know now modern is combat, so yeah, probably see very much.
Now, I understand it's hard. There's a similar card that kind of does something similar to this, but it also gets the monster like spell and trap it. And that has the water. So, but that card's like 10 years old, so I don't know.
Right.
Anyway, next card. Let's go back to the trap card.
International matter transfer. Yeah.
Got like the 3 gems.
All of the colors, all of the kind of placement of the colors make sense. Okay.
Garrett, put it on screen.
Target one face-up monster you control, banish that target. So, good value. Target your opponent's stuff.
Oh, there's my Lava Golem. Isn't that lovely?
What have you. Maybe they're trying to steal it with a enemy controller. Because I think this
I'm showing you. Wait, I will let you know if there's people like within a year.
Okay. You're like, psych, I actually dodged that. So, not in that situation it would be. It seems like it has additional value.
I just wanted to give the gift card.
So, Yu-Gi-Oh doesn't have like it doesn't have many enter the battle type effects.